A UK EU youth mobility scheme, we're getting one. Excellent. Finally, and finally, because this has been going on for a while now, ever since just before Keir Starmer came into power, there has been this, not necessarily an offer, but clearly something that the EU wanted to do, like an offer, like a scheme. And our government at the time, the Conservative government, turned it down. And the Labour Party at the time, vying for power, turned it down. But everyone thought as soon as Keir Starmer comes into power, come on, what's not to like if you want to build closer relations with the EU? The ability to have 18 to 30-year-olds from the UK go and spend 2 years, extendable to 3, anywhere in the EU to work and then come back, and vice versa, to have all of that those young people from around Europe be able to come over here for 2 to 3 years and actually work all over the country and fill all those gaps in hospitality and other key industries. That's clearly a fantastic cultural exchange. It has been proven, as in, well, economically modeled to be actually a significant boost to GDP at a time when we are sluggish and stuck on GDP. So what's not to like? What was holding up the government? Reason we all think, those of us who know and who've been asking around, that the particular block was with the Home Office and Yvette Cooper, who, if you stay in this country for longer than 1 year, it's counted as immigration. So it'd be immigration on the books, even though after that 2 to 3 years, those people are back off the books. So the net immigration increase from them is zero. Nevertheless, the impression was she just wants to drive immigration down and didn't even want a temporary bump on the books. Also, there was this thinking that Labour is spooked by reform, and oh no, if you say youth mobility scheme, then it's more immigration. It looks like free movement, and then reform's going to come and get you. Well, firstly, it's clearly not free movement, because free movement is about fundamental rights for life to come and travel in the UK or across Europe for 3 months at any time, and then rights to get a job if you can get one, if you want one, or if you can support yourself financially. Anyway, so it wasn't free movement, but why were they spooked by reform? They should have just looked at the polling, because the polling on a youth mobility scheme showed very clearly that 88% of Labour's own voters support a youth mobility scheme, with only 6% against. They literally had nothing to lose from their own base in supporting it. Furthermore, look across to the Conservatives, 59% support for it. And even look across at Reform UK, 34% support for it. So rather than going with this thing and then being attacked by the right-wing press and Reform and what have you, and losing support, there's an actual massive opportunity to gain support from Conservatives and even some Reform, because it's an obvious thing to do. And furthermore, even though Keir Starmer had set out 3 red lines about we will not be rejoining free movement, nor the single market, nor the customs union, a youth mobility visa scheme, time limited, is outside all of those red lines. So what was the issue? Anyway, it looks like they have now seen sense. Why have they seen sense? Well, firstly, there have been lots of us campaigning on it, repeatedly campaigning to MPs, doing petitions on it, making arguments about it. But also, more critically, there is a summit between the UK and EU coming up in May. The UK is seeing the global dynamics, wants to get back with European partners, particularly on defence of Ukraine, because we've seen what Trump's like, right? And in order to get any of the defence and security deals we need, the EU side have been saying, get youth mobility on the table. We want it. This is important for us, particularly for the Germans. They've thought, prove yourself that you're actually good, reliable partners, interested in European cohesion as a whole. At least Let's do that with the younger generation. And so they have been pushing it hard. And to think that Keir Starmer and others, instead of just saying, well, that's a win-win, to actually say, oh, it's a negotiating thing that we may have to concede, is actually insulting. And it's been framed by some commentators from the EU of like, that's insulting. What, do you not like our youth? Are they not good enough for you? And in fact, this is where a lot of it all started, was because after Brexit, the UK actually knew that it was lacking all that young temporary labour that used to come from across the continent in order to help out in all kinds of work and just enrich our it's like extended tourism as well. It's great for the economy. No burden on the NHS because these are young people. No burden on long-term immigration because they only want to have work experiences here for a year, 2 years, something like that, right? But anyway, so then the Conservative government was starting to sniff around France and Spain and Germany to see if they could do sort of bilateral youth mobility schemes like we have with Australia. And this is where the EU Commission actually stepped in and said, no, 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 no. We're not going to have any of this. We're not going to have Britain saying, oh, we'll take the Scandinavians, but we won't take the Slavs from Poland and Slovakia. No, no. That would be fundamentally racist, and that would be fundamentally against everything that the EU, the European Union, is about, which is equal opportunities for all. And so they said, no, that's a pan-European competence. If the UK wants to do any kind of youth exchange, it has to be with the EU as an entity, because it has to be equal opportunities for all of the youth of Europe. That's what we're about here. And so that's what they said internally. And then that's what got immediately picked up by the UK press back just before the general election. And the timing was terrible because the government was spooked and the Labour Party was spooked. But you would have thought, having coming into government, they would then go onto the front foot and pick that one up as an easy win. As it happened, it's been hard work to get them to just pick up this obvious nugget of gold. But now that they are saying that they will, it really is game on for a lot of UK building with the rest of Europe, not just economically, but also culturally. So I'm dead happy with this news today, and also shows that our country is finally, the pendulum is swinging back, and we're going back in the right direction. We're going back towards the team, and we just need to keep pushing.